From the TV47 news desk, this is News Now. President William Ruto has assented to the supplementary appropriations bill presented by the Parliamentary Budget Committee, putting effect adjustments to fiscal plans for this financial year's budget. The expenditure changes, which will see to the addition of more than 200 billion shillings to the initial budget, would cater to debt obligations that incurred extra charges from the depreciation of the shilling. The hike of the cost of living is expected for Kenyans as the government insists on pushing its no-loan agenda. I will bring you this story later on. Moving on, transport has been disrupted along the Mombasa-Nairobi highway at Sultan Hamud after River Sultan burst its banks following the heavy rains. Police have warned motorists to avoid this area following heavy flooding. Muka Sub-County Police Commander Barnabas Ngeno says they are managing the situation.
No, we are controlling. We are in control of it. Haina shida, we are controlling movement. Magari zinapita lakini we are controlling them. Jasi ndio uingie Sultan karibu na Nobo petrol station. Mahali kuna daraja mrefu hii river mtu hii. Yeah, we cautioning tunaambia all the road users who are very careful for his stretch, but we have officers who are directing them. So let them obey the traffic officers who are directing the motorists.
Now, more than 1,000 residents from Ngarimara ward in Isiolo County have been evacuated from their homes as a result of heavy rains and flooding, which claimed the lives of 2 people and caused extensive damage to property of an undisclosed value. County government officials, in collaboration with teams from the Kenya Red Cross, spearheaded the evacuation efforts. The affected residents have found refuge at Ngarimara Secondary School, where makeshift accommodation has been set up in classrooms and dormitories. However, due to limited space, only women, children, and people with disability were provided with sleeping mats and allocated spaces to rest.
Sasa wakati tulikuwa ng'ambo ile, vitu yote iliharibika na maji. Kila kitu. Huko maji inafika kwa babati. Sio kwa dirija, kwa babati kabisa hivi. Sasa huko hata hakuna mahali unakaa, hata hakuna nini. Tukaamua kuhama hiyo side nyingine. Sasa hata wakati watu wa Red Cross walikuja wakatuandika, sisi watu nusu tukaambiwa tuko kwa kompyuta, tumeandikwa sijui tumewekwa kwa system. Finye hiyo majina ilikuja, sisi wengine hatukukua, majina yetu haikukua ndani. Sasa kumaanisha hiyo matendo wetu walikuwa wanapata, si hatujapata. Hiyo vitu Red Cross walikuwa wanapeana na sisi ndo tuliadhirika kabisa. Sisi sasa tunakaa hata bila tenda, hata bila nini. Tukakuja sasa hiyo side hiyo watu wakatuokoa, wakatupea tu manyumba ya kuishi. Sasa venye tena kuanzia juzi tena mvua ilianza kuongezeka, ndio maji tena ikaanza kuwa nyingi tena zaidi. Ndio tukaanza sasa kuanzia jana venye ilikula ile watu wawili hata jana, ndio tukaanza sasa kukuja tu usiku tulikuwa tunakesha na watoto juu ya lami.
Wametusaidia na vitu ya kulalia, blanketi na hata kitu ya kula kwa sababu kila kitu iliharibiwa na maji. Nyumbani haikaliki, ukiwa ndani ya nyumba maji na kufika kwa kiuno. Hapo barabara yote mpaka hata magari saa ile karibu maji ibebe. Tukaamua tu kukaa hapo kando ya lami, ndio sasa tukapatikana hapo na serikali yetu ndio wakaamua kutusaidia kutuleta hapa primary.
President William Ruto has assured Kenyans that the government has taken concrete measures, both short and long term, to address the effects of the ongoing El Nino rains. President Ruto expressed concern that 70 lives have so far been lost, while 36,160 households have been displaced by the rains. He said 2.4 billion shillings has been availed to help Kenyans who have been affected by the rains, especially in the provision of food.
And taking into account the situation in the country now to do with our roads, the food situation, the water situation, the medicine delivery situation in Kenya. Cabinet will meet on Monday to deliberate on the various recommendations that have been made to ensure that the country is better prepared for the management of the situation that we see unfolding. Immediately, the National Disaster Operations Center has been rolled into place. Senior government officials will now move to the National Disaster Operations Center, including those from the various agencies, the military, the Ministry of Roads, the Council of Governors, and all the other stakeholders, including Ministry of Health, to make sure that we coordinate all the information, receive reports from various parts of the country, process that information.
Let's switch gears now and focus on matters education. Learners from 5 schools located in the troubled Chesegon and Cheptulel areas of West Pokot County did not sit for this year's Kenya Certificate of Primary Education KCPE exam and the Kenya Primary School Education Assessment KPSEA exam as well, due to pervasive insecurity in the region. Locals have expressed their disappointment, noting that there was little cause for celebration following the release of KCPE results, as many children missed the examination due to the prevailing insecurity. Even among the few learners who managed to sit for the exams, their performance was adversely affected by the rampant insecurity in the area. A visit to the affected schools revealed distressing scenes of vandalized property by bandits, with empty desks, destroyed and scattered books across classroom floors.
Tumekuja kukadiri hali ya usalama katika sehemu hii, na jinsi uonavyo hapa nyuma, hii shule imebaki mahame. Wanafunzi waliweza kutoweka kwa hii shule kulingana na hali ya ukosefu ya usalama, na mwaka uliopita wanafunzi hawaweza kusomea hapa kwa sababu area hii ilikuwa imepatikana na ukosefu ya usalama mwingi. Kumetokezea wizi wa mifugo, mauaji ya kiholela katika sehemu hii, na imefanya watu ya hapa kuhama. Tunavyoona hapa nyuma vile nyasi imemea na vile hii shule imekaa katika hali mbaya sana.
Sisi kama watu ya Cheptulel tumewachwa nyuma kabisa. Tunataka kusema ya kwamba kwa sababu hii maofu yote ambayo imefanyika, ambayo ukiona hii mashule aswa hii ya Cheptulel Boys, kuna ile ya Kasa, kuna ile ya Sapulmoi, kuna hata Cheptulel Primary, kuna hata Arpolo ambayo iko mbele, wanafunzi hawasomi, wanafunzi wamehama, wengine wameoleka kwa sababu hakuna security.
Mashule mengi upande huu imefungwa kwa sababu ya insecurity. So wanafunzi wetu tangu mwaka jana hawajaonekana, hatujui walienda wapi, walihama na wazazi wao wapi. So tunaomba serikali watusaidie ili tufungue haya mashule yetu, watupatie security ya kutosha ili haya mashule. Tuko na shule ya Kasa, Chesegon, Cheptulel Primary, Cheptulel Boys, Cheptulel Girls, Sapulmoi. Haya mashule yalifungwa kabisa na watoto hawajafanya mtihani mwaka huu.
Githonguri Member of Parliament Gathoni Wamuchomba has asserted her intent to vehemently oppose the National Dialogue Committee's report on bipartisan talks once it is presented before Parliament. Her opposition is based on the report's failure to incorporate provisions for the equitable distribution of funds and considerations for the cost of living. The legislator criticized the government for imposing high taxes on Kenyans. She has further pledged to rally more legislators to reject the report, highlighting that the only viable approach is the allocation of equalization funds. According to Wamuchomba, areas with larger populations are disadvantaged despite contributing a significant percentage to the national GDP from the region.
Discussion or any deliberation on the table kama ni hiyo National Dialogue Committee ambayo inaongewa na kina Ishongwa na Kalonzo Musyoka, debate yetu ni one man, one challenge, one vote. Nikaambiwa ni nyamaze. Mwaka imeisha. Tumegawa basare round ya kwanza. Sasa tunagojea round ya pili. Ni haki mimi ni nyamaze mkiteseka. Hiyo ripoti Ishongwa anataka kuleta kule bunge. Hiyo ripoti ambayo ametengeneza wakiwa na kina Kalonzo Musyoka, kama haitakuwa na maneno ya one man, one shilling, one vote, Wamuchomba anaomba ruhusa kutoka kwenu niangushe asubuhi na mapema. Asubuhi na Wangapi wangetaka niangushe kama haina hiyo? Onyesha hawa watu wa TV waende waseme, si mimi nimesema, ni nyinyi mmesema. Mmenipatia ruhusa. Kama haina our interest is one man, one shilling. Na mjue maneno ya 1 shilling 1 vote sio maneno ya basari peke yake. Nikigawia pesa ya barabara nitapewa equivalent of my population.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua joined other heads of state and government for the African Union Committee in Equatorial Guinea. Representing President William Ruto, the Deputy President engaged in the summit focused on consolidating Africa's unified stance regarding UN Security Council reforms. The summit offered an opportunity for African leaders to assess the current status of global efforts towards restructuring the Security Council. Leaders from the C10 states deliberated on strategically leveraging the common African position as a negotiating framework to establish a realistic and pragmatic roadmap for Security Council reform aligned with the continent's interests.
debido a compromisos previos.
Now, as the world observes Global Education Week, prominent figures from the private sector in the country gathered this week for a roundtable discussion addressing challenges in the education sector, particularly those arising from changes in the curriculum. The educational forum, named EduTalk, brought together experts and diverse personalities, including those from the creative industry, to provide insights on enhancing Kenya's education system. The discussions underscored the importance of inclusivity in the education sector to fully accommodate all stakeholders, especially learners. The second edition of the roundtable panel discussion, organized by Big East Africa, delved into global issues and responded to the evolving education landscape, emphasizing the impact of digitization and engaging in the global conversation on gender equality and inclusion.
How are we rethinking education? Because we can't do the same thing all the time. The way education was 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, is nowhere near where it is today. So I'm also passionate about evolving with how the world is going. How are we rethinking education, innovating education, and making sure, more importantly, and this one is the most heartbreaking one, how are we giving the people access to education? Because too many people don't have access to education and they need it. Even if it's the kind of education we're talking about, digital, innovative, things to do with their hands, with their talents, we need to rethink education. We need to broaden what it looks like, and we really need to work with many stakeholders and supplement what the education systems are giving us, not just on the continent, but around the world.
It's really an aim of BIC, which is to try to help, let's say, students in their education. We got an objective of 250 million students to help by 2025 in different ways. It can be artistic ways, it can be just supporting people, supporting students, supporting schools in different ways. That's mainly what we try to do, and EduTalk is just a way to facilitate the relation between people, to talk about it, to better tackle, let's say, the way to move forward with education.
Issues were raised on how media can be able to support education and how they can work concurrently, and how media also can be able to can be used to impact on culture and heritage. And a lot of points were brought out, but I'm happy for all the stakeholders who showed up. Great and intense deliberation conversation, but more and above all, our role as content creators, our role as the media. I'm a trained journalist, by the way. How we can be able to impact education as it is in our country and beyond.
A Mombasa-based businessman has been arraigned facing charges of defrauding a Turkish citizen of 50 million shillings. As per the police investigation report, the suspect, Idam Barak, and his brother allegedly persuaded the Turkish citizen to provide a credit facility of 4,000 euros, backing the arrangement by depositing 35 motor vehicle logbooks as security. During the court proceedings before Mombasa Chief Magistrate Alex Ithuku, the accused denied the charges. Subsequently, they were granted release on a cash bail of 100,000 shillings.
And as we are, and that was the reason for referring the police, that the same matter is pending before the High Court in civil suit number.
Remain on the cash bail is granted by police, that is Act 1000. That cash bail which has been now.
We'll be back with more news shortly. Welcome back. You're still watching News Now. Now, more than 1 million people are addicted to alcohol, drugs and substances in the Rift Valley region, with over 400,000 in need of rehabilitation services. This is according to the National Authority for the Campaign Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse and NACADA chairperson, Reverend Stephen Mairori. Now, speaking during the launch of a treatment and rehabilitation center in Bomet County, the Second Lady, Pastor Dorcas Rigathi, called on all counties to open their doors for such facilities as a way of safeguarding the future of the country. Further, she urged for frequent screening exercises to be conducted to identify those in need of rehabilitation services.
Rift Valley alone, Your Excellency, about 1 million people use alcohol and other forms of drugs, over 1 million. And actually, those who need rehabilitation are about 400,000. That's a very large number.
We identified 37 young men ready for rehabilitation. In Sotik, there were 56 who have agreed. We have Chepalungu, 72, Bomet East, 41, Bomet Central, 41. These numbers, those who they speak of the volume of the people or the density of the problem we are having. I understand 22% prevalence of abuse of drugs. That is very bad.
So this is a facility that is meant for all of us. And I am very sure the message ambayo umeleta hapa is not to condemn hawa, lakini kupatia hawa hope kuwa they can still recover out of whatever ile wameingia.
Now, the Mombasa County government has launched a new pediatric and accident and emergency wing. Speaking during the launch, Mombasa Governor Abdul Swamad Nasir said all children under the age of 5 will receive medical services for free. Take a look.
His name, because then I know it will cost me from here. But when we met, I remember telling you that I will be a person who kwa takriban watoto 30,000. Lakini zaidi ni kwa idadi ya watoto waloweza kupata matibabu tukilinganisha na miezi ile ya miaka iliyopita, ni idadi ya 30% imeongezeka. Inamaanisha ya kwa watu wako radhi, mtoto ni mgonjwa akae naye ndani ya nyumba, ikizidi sana ampatie ubani na mwarobaini, lakini watoto hawapelekwi hospitali. Hii inaonesha wazi ya kuwa 30% ya watu wameregea na kupeleka watoto wao katika hospitali. Pia vile vile tumeweza kuleta NHIF cover. Na tena mimi tulipofanya NHIF nilizunguka wodi zote, tena nilizunguka na nyinyi. Baadhi ya community health promoters nilizunguka na nyinyi wodi zote 30. Na nikawaambia ya kwa hakuna ambaye ni mwana Mombasa serikali yake haitomlipia. Nataka kutoa tangazo, na tena nimeona mkubwa wa NHIF wa region yuko hapa. I don't know if he's around. I saw him around, the regional manager for NHIF. Hata yeye ni shahidi, tumelipa kile kipengele cha kwanza. Hivi tunavyoongea tayari kipengele cha pili kiko kwa process ya kuweza kulipa, kwa hivyo hatuna deni. Tumelipa. Pia vile vile tumelipa supplier wa madawa. Hatuna deni na supplier wa madawa, and I'm informed ya kuwa kuna dawa za milioni 50 mimi mwenyewe nilizi flag off kuhakikisha facilities zetu zote zina dawa ya kutosha.
Transport Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen and stakeholders in the matatu industry have reached a consensus to streamline and professionalize the sector, recognizing its crucial role in the economy. Officials from the Matatu Owners Association held discussions with the Cabinet Secretary at Transcom House, emphasizing that the sector is a vital component of Kenya's economy, contributing over 200 billion shillings in revenue annually. It was agreed that further engagement with all industry players and the public is necessary to solidify mutually acceptable reforms.